Okay, we've opened up. We're letting everybody in. I'm doing my back end things to get us live streaming on Facebook. Come on in. You should be able to utilize the chat. Please say hello if you are able to do that. And if I don't see any chat coming up, I will head on over there and make sure
Trying to
that.
get my lighting a little better here.
Okay, good. The chat is going. I know lighting is always a challenge. All right, everybody's popping in and saying hello. Hello, everyone. We're so happy to
Hello.
be here. We are going to go ahead. It's 1 o'clock on the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get this kicked off right on time. And hello to everyone who is watching over on Facebook. If you didn't register for this event, and you are just catching us on Facebook, by all means, you can watch the replay on Facebook later on. So that is a nice benefit of zooming it over there. For everyone else who is registered and here with us, we will send out the replay by the end of the day. These also always go up on our YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/write publish sell. If you haven't subscribed to us over there, please do so. We try to put some good content, all of our webinars on the YouTube channel. So welcome everyone. I'm Alexa Bigwharf, host of the Women in Publishing Summit, and we are back for another of our sponsor events leading into our conference. As I mentioned in all of our webinars, our sponsors play such a huge and important role in helping this event continue to be a very reasonably priced event, but they also help us keep the content going all year round. For those who can't attend the conference, we have our webinars every single month, sometimes more than one. So if you are new to our community, please make sure you head over to womeninpublishingsummit.com/events, and you can see everything that we have coming on up in the near future, both free events, and we do run our monthly paid workshops. In just next week, we will have a paid workshop on BookBub and growing your BookBub profile. So if that is of interest to you, make sure you go check that out. And in December, we've got a workshop coming up on Amazon ads. So two great ones. But today we are here with Michele Vandepas of GracePoint. And I just want to thank you so much again for continuing to sponsor this, what I think to be one of the best events in the world for women in particular, but even for publishing and marketing, book marketing in general. So thank you. I know you're under the weather. You've just come back from a trip, and I appreciate you not canceling on us.
Yeah, no. So I'm a little stuffy. So I just got back from a 3-week trip to Europe. So everyone bear with me if I'm a little bit stuffy or go a little bit hoarse. I've got water, throat coat, tea, and cough drops. So I did not want to cancel. I've been looking forward to this and I'm ready to go. So thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Our conversations are always really wonderful. If you've been a part of the Summit community for a while, you've seen Michele speak a few times. She always comes with big light and big energy and big love, and that's always appreciated. Just a couple housekeeping things before we get started, and that is that please use the Q&A box. If you have questions, feel free to chat in the chat box, but there is that Q&A box. That way the questions don't get lost throughout, and we will have time to answer. And then I just lost my train of thought. So we are here today to talk about outlining your book. This is primarily focused on nonfiction books, but as I always say to any fiction writers and memoirists, which is technically nonfiction, and children's book authors, or wherever you fall in the scope of things, I think there's benefit of learning from everything. So there may be some nuggets of wisdom that you can pull into your own stuff. So don't just hop off if you're like, well, I'm not a nonfiction writer, because you may really get some good information from this anyway. And with that, the closed captioning is turned on. If you need that, please feel free to click on the CC button at the bottom. And I'm going to pass it over to Michele so we can get right into this.
Thank you so much. And yes, this is primarily for nonfiction, but there's quite a few nuggets in here that pertain to all kinds of writers. And you can even use some of this for courses and other things. So yes, stay with us. May I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to turn myself off here. So it's all you.
All right, so here we go. Screen, share, present.
Perfect. We see it. It's live and up.
Okay, outlining your book with me, Michele Vandepas. It's so good to be with everybody here today. Who am I? For those of you who don't know me, I am Michele Vandepas. I'm co-founder of GracePoint Publishing. I am a publisher, a coach, an entrepreneur, a mom, a traveler, thinker. I like to think about where the world is going and where readership is going and where books are going and where authorship is going. And I just am, right? I just am in the world with all of you, trying to do the best, navigating all the changes. Every time I think, oh, the world hasn't really changed too much, I think back 2 or 3 years about how so many things are different. And that includes publishing. Yet there are some things that totally stay the same. And we're going to ground into those a little bit today. What is the same? What have we learned over myself, more than 20 years in publishing? How can I bring that to you, all my experience, and help you outline your book in just an hour? So the first thing that I always like to talk about when we talk about outlining your book is really taking a moment and connecting with yourself, your future readers, and your audience. We want to find, just like in business, just like in doing a course, whenever you do a book, we want to find that magic place where your inspiration and your purpose and your story intersects with what your future reader wants, what your future reader's hungry for, what your audience is eager to read. So we want to find that place where you are totally inspired and your audience is attracted to that. So when we go to outline a book, when you work with myself or when I teach this, I always like to start with, who are you as an author first? And what does your audience want? What does your audience need? What are they looking for? And we're going to find that place where those two things come together. And where we start is connecting with yourself and then with your audience. So I'm going to take you through a little sort of woo-woo meditation here. Used to be woo-woo. It's not so woo anymore. Most people are like, oh yeah, this is totally cool. So if you can, take a deep breath with me. And we're going to go into the space of pretending like we already know who your audience is. And if you've written a book before, you may already know that. If you have courses, if you're out there on the internet, you may have a really clear understanding of who your potential audience is. But we're going to take a minute and step into that. So take a deep breath. Excuse me while I cough. Put your feet on the floor if you can. Close your eyes if you feel motivated to do so, if you feel called to do so. And go into the place where you are really clear about who you are. You're here to help inspire your reader, either through a fiction or a nonfiction work, to read your book, to feel something at the end of that book. And what is it you want your reader to feel? Who is your audience? What is their need? If you're writing fiction, you can think about that. You want them to feel hope. You want them to feel inspired. You want them to feel, gain some, go through a journey, go through a story. Nonfiction, it's going to be the same kinds of things. They're going to want to feel inspired, learn something. So what is it that you're here to give? And what is it your audience wants? So it starts with what resonates with you. What are you here to share? What are you here? What are you really here to write about? If you could only write about one thing, start there. What would that be? What are you here to write about? And if you can, take some notes or just think about it. And whatever comes up for you, let that come up. What is your passion? What are you really called to do? What is it you would like to do? What is it you want to write about? Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's children's books. Maybe it's inspiration. Maybe it's your life story. We're going to take all this. You probably know this, but we're going to take all this and put it in your book outline. And then what is your area of expertise? So how do you take that passion, what you're here to share, what your purpose is, what you want to write about, and what are you an expert in? Maybe your life, maybe you're writing a memoir and you're an expert in your life. Maybe you're an expert in raising your children, and so you know what you're writing about for your children's book. Whatever it is, you're an expert in something, even if it's your life. And what is it that you have learned in your own lifetime that you want to put out in this book? And what does your audience need? Which part of your expertise does your audience really need? And just allow any and all information to come through right now, any words, any bullet points, any inspiration. Like, does your audience really need hope right now? Does your audience need to be just taken on a journey? Do they need to be inspired? What is it that you have in your bucket of expertise and experience that your audience wants? And just think about this. Just go into the place where your audience is there waiting for this book. They're already there, waiting for this book to be written. And what is it that they're hoping to get from you? What do they need? And what excites your audience? And just ask. Take a minute and pretend your audience is right there waiting for this book to be written, and just ask them, what's going to get you really excited to read this book? What piece of information or what sort of story do you want to connect with this book? And then especially for nonfiction, but also for fiction, we relate to people's pain, right? We can all relate when someone else is going through the same sort of pain we're going through: grief, breakup, death. It can be joy as well. We all relate to other people's joy, marriage and births and all those kinds of things. But there's an intimacy in pain. And you might think of that also as the hero's journey. Like, where is it when you're at the depth of the pain? And what pain might your audience be feeling that you have also felt? Or what pain have you felt that you can also identify with your audience? Because that's a really great place to bring your future reader in and really write to that audience. When you can identify with the pain that you've been through and help your audience understand that you could bring them through that. That could be anything. It could be money. It could be weight loss. It could be something really big like death and grief. And it could be something not quite as traumatic, like you can't get your garden to grow, right? But what is that pain? And I want you to identify that as part of your book outline. And we might talk about what the values are that you have and your audience has. That are you going to bring that into your book? Because will that make your book a little bit different? So do you talk about LGBTQ plus issues? Do you talk about racial issues? Do you talk about political issues? Do you talk about saving money? Do you talk about going green or climate change? Do you talk about values of homeschooling or values of making sure the kids go to college, or whatever your personal values are? sports or theater interests, you want to pull those in. You want to pull those into your book because they make your book come alive. So think about all of this. All of these things are going to come in. Your personal stories are going to come in. Even if you're writing fiction, you write about what you know, those personal stories are going to come in, and your values get shared through your personal story. And that's what makes your book relatable and not just dry, not just, oh, here's another nonfiction self-help book, right? We don't need another one of those. We want something that really we relate to, inspires us, or gives us hope, or gives us something to do, and we can relate to the book in some way. And that is what makes our message different from other books out there. It is our values, our stories, our personal experience, our expertise. Even if you're not writing even if it's not a memoir, you're still going to be writing your personal stories and weaving them in somehow into the book, just to make the book more interesting. And so this bridge, this connection between what your audience is craving, what are they craving, and what it is that you have to share, that's that bridge that you want to bring. And that's what this book is. Your book that's about to be written, that maybe is already out there, written in some other universe, right? Maybe it's already there and you're just bringing it in. Writers talk all the time about, once my pen started flowing, or once I started writing, it just poured in. And you want to connect to that. And this bridge between your audience and you and what you have to give, this book is that bridge. So, what are you ready to connect yourself to your audience? Yes, because that's what this book is, and you're here. So, all right. So I want to talk for a minute about building your back cover, because when we start outlining your book, I always start from the end. And so I'm going to take you through a couple of things here. So any notes that you have from the period, the thing we just did, write them down, jot them down, any notes, any keywords, any bullet points, just jot them down, because we're going to take all of that. This is all things that will go around in your subconscious and help you, because your subconscious will work it all out into the book, into writing the outline. What I have found, when you want to outline a book, if you start with the back cover first, it actually helps pull all of these ideas and all these things about your audience and the pain and the inspiration and the journey and the hero's journey and your expertise, and pulls it all together into a really good synopsis. And so I want you to spend some time as part of the outlining process, writing your back cover. Now, you may or may not ever use this particular couple of paragraphs that you're going to write as your back cover. We don't know. But on the back cover, we just have a few paragraphs here that's going to tell people why they should pick up the book. Let's go to some questions. Who is this book for? This book is for you if you're looking to lose 20 pounds in 1 month. This book is for you if you want to go on the hero's journey and understand how everybody can come back from the dark. This book is for you if you have never been able to grow a tomato and are ready to have red, juicy, plump tomatoes, right? Who is this book for? Why would they read it? This book is going to help you get the exact blueprint to lose 20 pounds. In a month, right? So why would they read it? That's got to go in your back cover. And how will they benefit from reading? By the end of this book, you will know the exact 5 things that you need to do to get the best tomatoes you've ever grown in your life. Like, be really specific as you're writing out your back cover. What are the actual benefits? What is it that someone is going to walk away with after they read your book? And what challenge, this is that pain point, You're going to help them overcome. You're going to help them feel better about the fact that they've never been able to lose weight. You're going to help them overcome that challenge and let them know that there are some things that they can do to help them lose the weight or grow tomatoes or whatever it is that you're doing. So your book cover, your back cover, is going to look like a couple of paragraphs of after you read this book, you will be inspired to lose the 20 pounds you've dreamt about losing for the last 20 years. And I'm going to take you through the exact 5 steps to do that, right? Even if you're writing a fiction book, you can use these same tools, or a children's book. What is it your audience is going to get after they finished reading this book? Because this will help anchor the energy of your whole book. What is it that your audience is going to have? What do you hope they're going to say about your book after they've read the book? So they're going to put the book down. They're going to go, wow, I know exactly how to grow juicy tomatoes now. I'm going to go start my garden. I'm going to start indoors. I'm going to start it today, even though it's end of October, November. We're in November now. What is it you hope they're going to say? Write that in your back cover. Put all of it in, all these ideas, because the goal is to pull your concept and set up a specific result that you want your reader to get on this back cover. So you're going to take all of these questions that we've talked about, and you're going to put them together and write for 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes, and then edit it into a couple of paragraphs so that you have drilled down the umbrella of what your book is about. All right. So after reading this book, you will, right? That's how you can start with the back. After reading this book, you will know exactly, feel inspired. I've been through a roller coaster, whatever it is. So you could start with that sentence. After reading this book, you will. It's not going to end up on the actual back cover. It's just a way to pull together all the stuff in your head and get really clear about what actually goes in this book. Right? All right. I'm going to take a sip of water here. All right, any questions about any of that? I'm going to go through. If there's anything, I was just looking at the chat there. And I'm going to go through actually taking some of this and actually outlining a nonfiction book now. We have your future reader, what it is they need and want. We have you, your purpose, your passion, your expertise, and what you want to write about. You have the bridge, pulling those two things together into your back cover, which is the synopsis of your book. It is the premise of your book, the whole concept of your book, right? Now we're going to take that and actually outline your book. So everybody ready? I'm going to take a break here. Catch my breath. I hope my hoarseness isn't coming across too much. I feel fine, but I am stuffy from traveling. All right. What would you like? And Alexa, if there's any questions, just pop in, interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep
see
going.
one in the Q&A box, and she says, what do you mean by concept?
Yeah, great question. So concept of your book is like the synopsis of the book. So most people, and I'm going to talk just nonfiction for a minute. Most people, when they come to me and they say, I have all these ideas for books. I could probably write 10 books. I don't know where to start. I have so many ideas. I can talk about weight loss. I can talk about gardening. I can talk about my life because I live a holistic life, or take a totally different approach. I can talk about anything. I've run a business. I can talk about making more money. I can talk about strategy. I can talk about implementation. I can talk about how do you make money online? I can talk about sales and marketing, right? Most people have all these ideas and they want to know how to pull it all into a book. And what you need is a book concept or a book synopsis that drills it down into the things that I talked about. What is it that you're really passionate about? And what does your client or your future reader really need? Because if you try to be all things to all people in one book, it doesn't land as well. So there are exceptions, right? There's always exceptions. For most writers, if it's your first book, it's better to focus because it is more difficult to weave together lots of different ideas. As a beginner writer, it is easier to focus on one thing. So sales and marketing, building a business, structuring your business. You can have some outlier topics, but if you have one concept for the book and start there and focus 80% of your content on that one focus, it's easier for new writers to get out a book that's actually pretty good, right? Because we've all read books out there that from new writers that aren't good. And our goal is, in fact, we say it on our website, we're not going to let you publish crap because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. So excuse me, but there is. And one of the ways that makes it easier, especially for new writers, is to focus. And in nonfiction books, those are getting a little bit shorter. Fiction is still can be long, but nonfiction is getting shorter. Attention spans are a little bit shorter. People want bullet points. People want short chapters. So the more you can focus and give real tangible takeaways, the better the book will be received. And that's what I talk about as a concept. So did that answer the question? Yeah, sounds like it. Good. All right. So what is your concept?
You want to answer this one? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Yeah,
But one just popped in. Is the back cover synopsis and blurb the same thing? If no, where does the blurb show or reflect in a hardcover book?
So for the purpose of today, let's just talk about it as all the same thing. However, a blurb is usually more salesy. It goes for marketing material. It might have, sometimes it has an endorsement in it. There are different schools of thought about how to create a blurb, but it's more of a marketing piece. The synopsis that I'm talking about is your book concept. So a back cover, there are many authors who have exactly the same, a synopsis and a back cover the same, or a blurb and the back cover the same. However, we tend not to do them the same. A blurb or a synopsis might be on your Amazon page, on the sales page. It's more about selling the book. And the back cover also has a little bit about you and the author maybe in there, an endorsement. It's less salesy and more about what you're going to get from the book. Very slight tweaks, but for the purpose of today, I wouldn't worry about it. Is that helpful? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to use, just for ease, I'm going to use an example of weight loss today to outline your book, because it's something that most people can relate to, whether you've had to lose weight or not had to, or don't care or whatever, but most people can relate to it. So I'm just going to use that as the example. Don't read anything into it, please. And what we're going to do is take the idea of, I want to write a book to help people lose weight. So whether you're Juicy Tomatoes or running a business or whatever it is, it's just going to be the concept. So what are the three things? And you can tell that I speak a lot with people who are using book for business, right? But what are the same three things that you would say to your clients from the stage and workshops and social media and coaching, whatever you do? So if you're writing a nonfiction book, you probably have clients or you probably have customers of some kind already. If you don't, just make it up. What are the three things you say over and over again, or what are the top three things that you really know have to be in this book? And if you know, write it down right now. Top three things. If it's weight loss, it might be I want to tell everybody that they have to eat a healthy breakfast. As I said, this is just an example. If you're an intermittent faster, don't come back at me with lots of emails. It's just an example. So, and I see a typo in here. It's a published, so I'm not gonna say it, but I see it. All right, because a publisher drives me nuts. So what are the top three things? If the goal of the book concept is how to lose weight, the goal of the book is to help you lose 20 pounds. The 3 things that I would want my reader to know is eat a healthy breakfast, stay off of sugar, and drink lots of water. Those are 3 concepts that I would want to put in this book, right? And that may be enough. If I can get my readers to understand that those 3 concepts are going to help them lose 20 pounds, that may be enough. That may be all I want to put in this book. It won't be overwhelming. It'll be a place for them to start, and it'll be easier to write than to go into all the nutritional pieces of a book. If you're a more experienced writer, you can go into all the nutrition in a book. But if you're not an experienced writer, it's just a lot of detail. So we're going to take those 3 things and break them down. First one, eat a healthy breakfast. So the main chapter idea, why is it important to eat a healthy breakfast? Maybe it's to get your calories early in the day, to get the brain pumping, to satisfy hunger upon waking, right? So you're going to take that first concept, eat a healthy breakfast, break it down into 3 more things. So whatever your premise might be, we're going to start with the book concept, lose weight, the goal of this particular book, to lose 20 pounds, 3 points. And then inside each of those 3 points, we're going to break it out 3 more points. Okay, so the main chapter, why eat a healthy breakfast. Then the next one might be, what is a healthy breakfast? And what results can you expect if you eat a healthy breakfast, right? So what is a healthy breakfast? This example's eggs and turkey, high protein, low sugar, good carbs, right? The point is to break it down into 3s, 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 and you keep breaking it down. And each of these become your bullet points that become your writing prompts. When I say, okay, go write a book about how to lose 20 pounds, you're like, where do I start? This gives you the place to start. Now you can write on a writing prompt what it means to have a healthy breakfast to get your calories early in the day. And if I sent you off to go write for 30 minutes just on that, what it means to get your calories early in the day, and that how that helps in your view of weight loss, you could go write on that. This was your subject, right? And so the point is to get you all the writing prompts you need in loosely the right order, so that you're going to end up with a book. So this outline gets you those writing prompts, right? So the third one, what can you expect if you eat a healthy breakfast? Faster weight loss, blood sugar regulation, and whatever that third one is that I can't see here. Helps with cravings, right? So you could go write about cravings, sugar cravings or food cravings for 30 minutes if you're a weight loss coach. And then you have exactly where that chapter goes or where that writing goes in your book, because this is all outlining. Now, when you work with a developmental editor, some of these may shift. The point today is just to get you an outline to start writing to. It gets you an outline so that you have writing prompts, so you can sit down and write. You're not in overwhelm, that you don't go, I don't know where to start. Weight loss is such a huge subject. Whatever your subject is, take 3 things. In this instance, it was eat healthy breakfast, stay off sugar, drink water, whatever your 3 things are going to be, and then break each of those 3 down even more, right? And then you can keep going. You can keep going deeper and deeper. One of the things that I like to do, and my partner at GracePoint teaches this, is to get index cards, and I use Post-it notes, whatever works for you. And every time you think of a keyword or you think of a concept or you think of something that has to go in the book, you write it on an index card. And then you put all those index cards on the floor and you put them in sort of order, loose order, that would follow this strategy of having main points and subpoints, right? So if you suddenly think hard-boiled eggs, you write down hard-boiled eggs, and then you're going to slide that in. That's not only something maybe you'd have for breakfast, but maybe that's something you have for a snack, right? And so you could slide that in. And so take your 3 points, break them out in 3, break them out in 3, and then write all these other notes and thoughts and bullet points and ideas that you have, and slide them in where you think they're going to fit in this outline. I like Post-it notes, index cards, whatever works for you, but handwriting them out, I find easier than doing it on the computer. Some people really like doing it on the computer. I like hand having it actually in my office so I can move things around. All right, so that's really what I have. There's usually a lot of questions. And so I'm just going to end by saying there's a whole course that goes along with this. I'm sure Alexa will have the information. You can go to GracePoint Publishing if you'd like more information about me or whatever I do. And we've still got time because I talked fast. So I'm happy to take any questions, talk about anything around outlining or publishing or anything else.
We do have a couple questions, and like Michele just said, she's opening it up to any questions. So by all means, post those in there, because we have 20 minutes that I would love for us to fill with questions from you, unless you're just not feeling well. And like,
no, I'd love to. And I see.
All right, Laura asked, for fiction, is concept equivalent to theme or variations on a theme? For example, healthy love, self-loathing, obsession.
So I'm not a fiction expert. I could guess, but Alexa could probably answer that better than I can. I don't really know.
It's an interesting question, because I mean, it depends on what you're like. For fiction, you usually deal in a world of tropes, or at least romance for sure.
Right.
But in fiction, you're going to have different your story arc and all those types of things that go along with it. So there can definitely be a theme to that book. Absolutely, there can be a theme to that book, but it's going to be very, I think the concept is going to be heavily genre driven. So what's normal for your genre? And I mean, these healthy love, self-loathing, obsession, these all sound like women's fiction type. And could be romance, could be a lot of things, I suppose, but that's a hard question to answer from this direct example. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful, Laura. Do you have tips for devotionals or workbooks?
Yeah, we published quite a few devotionals and workbooks. I think, so generally when I work with someone who wants to do a workbook, they usually have a course or a book or a speech or something that they've already done. So I don't know if this is true for you, but if you have already have a course, excuse me, it's pretty easy. Pull out from a course specific questions and put them into a workbook. The format of the workbook can be anything, right? It can be a question on a page and then a blank page or line page and so forth. But I think what you're asking is, how do you get the content of the workbook? And usually if you have a workbook, it's because it goes along with something else, in my experience. So where is that course, or where is that speech, or if it's devotional, where is that content that you're trying to pull something from? And I would start there and just go through every paragraph of your course or every whatever it is you might have and pull out a question for each section. So is that helpful?
Sounded helpful to me. I mean, that's what when we've worked with nonfiction authors who have done workbooks, generally, it depends. They've done them in different ways. They've done questions at the end of chapters that they've then pulled into a workbook at the end, or at the end of the book, they've pulled things, from the concepts that they wanted to work through, or they've separated them out into a completely different book overall. But like Michele just said, I mean, it's going to come from the content you've already created.
Yeah,
And
it
the
usually comes
questions.
from something. Yeah.
All
I
right.
see a question about a cookbook.
Yes.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. You do. You do you. You're in charge.
So we have published a couple of cookbooks, and our cookbooks do not follow this 3 sections, 3 points, but it could. The purpose of this three bullet points, 3 sections, is to help you get a book outline. It is not saying that's how your book needs to end up. It's going to go through a process. I have worked with thousands of authors in 20 years. The book that you outlined today is not going to be the book that gets published in a year or 2 years from now. It never is. And so please allow yourself to go with the creative flow, because that's what will make it a better book. The purpose of this outline is to get you started and get you out of overwhelm and get you out of your head, and to get you out of, I've written all of this about this content, and I've written all of this about this content, and they don't fit together and it doesn't flow. That's the purpose of this. So if it's helpful to say, I'm writing a cookbook about potatoes, and I'm going to have fried potatoes, boiled potatoes, and sauteed potatoes, and break it out that way, use that to help you get some kind of structure to start with, because that's really the point of this.
I think that's a good structure. Is it a concept of 3 to start, but could end up being more?
Yeah, totally. It could end up being more. I will say that we have books that are like a chapter for every month, like 12 chapters, and every month you work through something to help you become a better, more creative person at the end of the month. We have 52 chapters. We have seasons. It's helpful to have some kind of structure to wrap your brain around getting a book written, right? So whether you end up saying there's 12 chapters because it's one for every month, the reader may never know that, but it helps us as authors structure a book and say, okay, January, February, March, and just give us something for our brain to land into. You can end up with as many as you want. I like to do the 3 because it's easier for beginner writers to focus on just a couple of concepts than to pull in 52 different concepts and make them flow in a book. It's just a little bit more difficult. So it doesn't mean you can't do it. It may just take you a little bit longer if you're a beginner writer. And you may end up paying a little more for developmental editing. So I like to start simple, start easy, especially for first-time authors. If you have 20 things that you want to say, do the same thing. Write them out in order. Say what you're going to say in each one of those 20 things, and then have someone read it and see if it's too much, if it's too overwhelming, or if it makes sense for your reader.
I don't want this one to get lost in the chat. So Karen says, as an editor publisher, at what point do you want to see a finished written product, i.e. how finished should the book be when an author approaches you for publishing?
So we work 2 ways. We take books that are developmentally edited, but maybe haven't done final copy editing, and we'll look at those for acquisition. And we may or may not take the book, right? It needs to be fairly polished. If you have a not final edited, but at least in the right order, at least the right structure, it makes sense, it flows, the chapters are outlined, the chapters are written, you've got maybe 40,000 words, 50,000 words. We also charge for editing and book coaching. So if you're not at that point, we will help you get to that point, so then you can submit it to us. So we work both ways.
Okay. Antonia, I see your question here. If we talked about the workbook, how you make a workbook, to go with the book at the same time or afterward with feedback. If you don't think that our answer to that question earlier answered your question, can you please pop another more specific question in there? And if you're good, then we'll just move on from that. Okay, so then Caitlin says, do you have any resources, books, workshops, etc. you recommend we reference when working on our proposals?
I was getting a devotional book just to also answer that we published, so I'll come back to that in a minute. Proposals have gotten shorter and shorter.
Huh.
We actually don't ask for proposals, and we don't work with agents for our company. I like to work directly with an author, and I like to see a synopsis, a back cover, a sample of writing, and a table of contents if you've already written the book, to get an idea of if it's going to work for us. If you have, this goes for any publisher, if you have reach, an email list, social media, a way to speak on stage, a way to market your book, publishers will have their ears perk up, even if the book isn't up to par. Because as with any industry, you want to sell stuff, and we want to sell books. And if you have a way to help sell the books, a publisher will usually help you get the book up to par, right? If you don't have any of those things, it's harder to get a publisher. We publish lots of authors without any of that. Okay, because we're more of a niche boutique publisher. So I will say proposals are getting shorter. Some publishers like myself, we don't really need a proposal. We need a one-page, here's the book synopsis. Are you interested? Or if you're starting at the beginning, we will help you with all of those things, and we will charge you for coaching and editing, right?
So Caitlin, if you don't mind me adding on to this answer just a little bit, that it's going to be, obviously GracePoint has their requirements. So if you're applying to them now, you know what they want. But if you are looking at other publishers that take non-solicited, meaning that don't come through an agent, I would just go to those websites and check out. Most people have a submissions page and submission guidelines, and they'll tell you what you want. And then if you're working with an agent, you'll want to see what their requirements are. So, but I agree with Michele that a lot of smaller publishers, it's not necessarily a really full-blown, or indie publishers don't necessarily need a full-blown. A lot of times it's more concept or where you are, or things like that. So
it really, what publishers want is a book and a sell.
Yes, exactly.
That's really all we want to know.
And that is a topic we could talk about for days and days and days. And actually, I don't mind spending a few minutes on this topic, because I think it's one that that a lot of authors don't really consider enough when they're approaching publishers, is whether or not the book will sell. And I know for me, when we have books submitted to our children's book press, Purple Butterfly Press, like, it's a huge factor, because so much time, energy, and money gets invested into these books. If the author hasn't even done their job at looking at comp titles, looking at the marketplace, looking at how their book fits into the marketplace, looking at if it's going to sell, then that is something that authors should spend some time doing, finding out if your book is going to sell. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. I don't know if you want to add to that. I was just going to pause and say, feel free to hop in.
So we work with our authors ongoing to help them sell books.
Mm-hmm.
We also do our bit to sell books, but no publisher is going to rescue you.
Right.
We get people coming to us all the time. I just want to turn it over to a publisher. You go sell the book. We will do that, but nothing sells a book like the author. And
Exactly.
So it really needs to be a collaboration with the publisher and the author. That's what works the best.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Would practical self-regulating, self-actualizing tools for spiritually awakening be a hot topic in today's market? That was a mouthful, Patricia, to read.
So I think it's the wording. People under, and there's a big generalization here, and I'm just one publisher. People under 40 have a different vocabulary than people over 40 in the spiritual transformational world. It does not mean that you can still write a book. So, I'm in my 60s. I can write a book and hit people under 40 if I'm aware of it. Or I can choose to just write to people of my age and use a different vocabulary. I think the vocabulary is changing. So if you're open to understanding what the hot buttons are for younger people and what they're responding to, absolutely. I mean, it's a huge topic still. Spiritual books and awakening books are being written and sold all over the place. I mean, Brene Brown is spiritual awareness, right? So I think it is more how you frame the book and what the book's about. Trauma is a huge issue right now. It's a big keyword buzz topic. Embodiment, freedom. These are all really awakening topics. So it's just how you frame it. So the short answer is yes, but there are some things I'd want to talk through with you to find out who your audience is and who you're writing to.
Great answer. Trisha says, I'm finishing my first book, which is historical fiction with metaphysical themes. Some of my beta readers thought it's metaphysical, but wondering if any of this falls into your realm for publishing. I'm attending today to help with outlining the second book. This was great. Love starting with the back cover. Thank you. Thanks,
So this is a book we published. Rebel Healers, Chronicles of a Fractured Soul. It's a fiction book. It's a metaphysical book, and we have had a difficult time finding exactly the right genre for the book. So here's what I will say. As a publisher, we really want to break through standard genres. So readers like to read in their genre. Readers like, I like this genre, I read in this genre, I will read everything I can get in this genre. So it's difficult when you're starting to write and bridge two genres like history and metaphysics, because it's hard to place that in Amazon. And that's not an answer I like, because I think they should be interesting books. They're just harder to sell because they're harder to get recognized from people who like always read historical fiction or always read more metaphysical type fiction books. And so when you're cross genreing, it's just more difficult to market. So I would think about that, but that doesn't mean not to write it. And it doesn't mean I don't want to partner with you to break through these boxes, because I think we all need to break through the boxes. It's just, it's not quite broken through yet.
Okay. We've gotten several people saying you were going to show the example of the devotional, and they've asked to go back to that.
Here's just one. I just happen to have some books back here. So this is just one, Seeds of Devotion, by Roger Butts. He's a chaplain at a hospital here. And he did, so there's no workbook in here. He did prayer and then reflection questions based on his prayer, right? And then he did another one. So then he did the prayer and reflection questions based on the prayer. So this is just one idea. And then he did deep dives where he went into, I don't know if you can read that, deep dive. So he had like a deep dive where he would spend a whole chapter going deep into a subject, and then he'd have prayer and reflection questions, prayer, reflection, and then another deep dive. So that's one way to do. That's one way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. It's how he did it.
I would say with most devotionals I've seen, they're usually the deep dive is really cool. I don't recall seeing that in one, but usually it's a very short passage and then those reflection questions, just like how he's set up through the majority of his book, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Is GracePoint a hybrid publisher?
So that means different things to different people.
Kind of
We
created
charge,
your
we,
own.
we charge for coaching and editing, but we're a traditional publisher. So we have traditional publishing models and a traditional publishing contract. We do, so hybrid, depending on what you mean by that. Some people mean I'm going to go get my ISBN myself and you're going to help me. Some people mean I get to own all my files and I'll go self-publish after working with you. Some people mean you'll publish, but I'll still be self-published. It means so many different things these days that I'm hesitant to say. We're a traditional publisher and we charge for services. So I'll leave it like that. You can hire us to edit your book and take your content and go, right? So that is kind of under hybrid publishing. Or you can hire us to work with you, edit your content, and then we'll publish under a traditional publishing model. So,
Okay. Let's see.
let me say one more thing about that. When working with a hybrid publisher or anybody where you're investigating publishers, ask the question about the ISBN and educate yourself. There's not a good or a bad, but what I often get is people say, well, I bought my ISBN, use my ISBN, and a publisher can't use an ISBN you bought. So there's no right or wrong. It's just you got to educate yourself a little bit because every publisher works differently around ISBNs.
Yes. And it's important to ask these questions figure out which route you're going before you start going and buying things, because different will do
because we
different.
can't use your ISBN if we publish. We use our ISBN.
Exactly. So Ruth said she's been on your webpage, but she wasn't able to find out how to submit. How do you go about submitting material for review?
That's because I don't want to get 4,000 submissions a month. Email publisher at gracepointpublishing.com. And that will come to myself, publisher at gracepointpublishing.com. There, it is on there, but it's very hidden because we do get a lot of submissions. And I like to work with people that like this. Like now, you know a little bit about who we are and what type of work we take. And so rather than just random submissions.
All right, let's see. Where do you research topics that are currently selling well? Is it too late to write about something that has reached a peak in popularity?
Okay, so I would go back to why do you want to write? I'll answer that. But the first question is it on your bucket list? Are you drawn to writing it? Is it something you really want to do? Are you going to regret not writing this in 10 years from now? Because there's a lot of reasons to write a book, and selling and hitting market is only one reason. Mm-hmm. If you're called to write a book, That's reason enough, right? If I'm called to ballroom dance, I am allowed to go ballroom dance without having any other grandiose goals around it. So if you're called to write, start there. If you have a message, if you have something you want to write, start there. Now, if you're writing to build a business, if you're writing because it's a business card or a foundational piece of a bigger message, then we want to make sure that we tweak it a little bit and write to genre or write to current keywords. And you can just research that on Google. You could say top nonfiction books right now and look and see what genres they're in, and go to Amazon and look at that genre and see what's selling in that genre. Every genre sells. Some are doing better than others right now. Trauma's doing really well right now. Freedom does real well right now. There are keywords that do real well. So I would take both of those concepts. If you want to write, go write. And if you want to build a business, then let's tweak it to make sure we're hitting a current market.
Good books are always in style. I mean, think about How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, that book always comes back as one that's recommended for leadership and all those kind of things. And it's very outdated when you think about, when it was written, etc., but it's still a concept that works. Okay, Joanna had asked, how do you incorporate personal stories in the nonfiction book? Are they also an index card under the points?
So one way to do it is to have one story that goes with every bullet point. You may not end up with all of those, depending how many bullet points you have, but definitely at least one story in every chapter. Something that illustrates what you're talking about. So it can be a personal story, it can be a client story, it can be your friend's story, it can be a testimonial, and you can weave it in, or you could just have it separate. There's different ways of editing that you can pull that together. But if you just write facts, it's dry. You got to engage people, and you engage people through story. And the easiest way as a beginner writer or a new author is to use your personal stories. That's the easiest way to pull it in.
Mhm. Carly, if you are listening, can you drop in the email address you want people to reach out to you? We've had several people ask about different types of books and whether or not you would take them, how they would reach out, all those types of things. Can you drop any information that you want folks to know while we're answering these last couple questions? And just so everybody knows, we are at time, but we only have 2 questions left. So we're going to get those last 2. Tickets for the Women in Publishing Summit go on sale November 7th. GracePoint will have an offer for all of our attendees, as they always do, but also Michele will be back to answer more questions. So if this webinar spurred some questions for you, she'll be back to meet with folks during the conference and answer those questions. Okay, so please reach out to publisher@gracepointpublishing.com, Carly says. So that's, if you have any specific questions, go ahead and use that email. And then we got these last 2. How does this apply to the who, what, when, where, why, and how pyramid of news and information reporting industries? People who have all of maybe 5 minutes or less than 900 words to tell a mostly complete nonfiction story. I don't know if it does. It's kind of that's a whole different.
I use who, what, when, where, why, and how all the time when I'm doing courses and when I'm teaching something.
True.
And it's just another way to structure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say you kind of answered your own question. I didn't quite understand the whole bit about 900 words or whatever, but I would just write to who, what, when, where, why, and how, and see what comes up for you, because it's just another structure that you can use. But what was the question about the 900 words? And
I think she might be writing short pieces. That's what I gathered from that. Is that
like articles,
you have a word constriction. Yeah. Okay. As you develop each point in your outline, do you suggest that they be of somewhat equal length?
Yeah. So eventually you want chapters to be more or less equal length, because it makes the book flow better. It's just easier to read. You can break all the rules. I've had authors break all the rules. So I'm telling you the rule, and then you choose whether to break it or not, right? Generally, yes. Nonfiction books around 50,000 words, each chapter about the same amount of words. We have had nonfiction. We published one that was 25,000 words. It was a tiny little book. This isn't it, but it was a little tiny little book like this, just to give you an idea of the size here, right? 25,000 words, a little pocket book. You can break all the rules, but generally speaking, 12 chapters, 50,000 words, a preface, an intro, a conclusion.
Perfect. Well, this was great. I so appreciate you coming when I know that you did not feel well. It was a really, really good webinar with lots of great information. We look forward to having you back during the week of the conference for another presentation and answering questions and digging into it with people. We'll make sure that everyone has the replay. Give us a little bit to gather all this information, and we'll make sure that the contact email and the link to join the email list for writing tips and encouragement is included in there. And you have the information to reach out to Michele, but thank you so very, very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Alexa.
All right. Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everyone.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you.